Aquatic environments can be extremely difficult to live in with their varying temperatures, salinities, and oxygen content. Because of this, many different fish families have had to develop certain means of counterbalancing the changes seen in their watery homes. In this video in particular, I will be primarily focusing on the unique adaptations seen in 3 organisms: the lungfish, the bull shark, and the betta fish. These organisms have been able to conquer the challenges of hypoxic environments and low salinity environments. Rather than just relocate to more favorable conditions like most fish species, these guys alter their physiology to adapt. Now, the lungfish is an interesting species to study because they have both lungs and gills that they can utilize at different points of time. Amongst the lungfish species, the African lungfish is the only one that utilizes an amphibious form of aerial respiration, while the Australian lungfish is a facultative air breather. With P. ethipithecus, or the African lungfish, being amphibious, they tend to absorb oxygen from their hypoxic environment via their lungs, while their gills and skin are used to dispel the carbon dioxide. Another weird thing about these guys is that they are able to estivate, or hibernate, outside of the water during dry periods. Crazy. They are a fish that can withstand long amounts of air exposure, and this is partially due to their amphibian-like respiration. Their Australian cousins are quite impressive themselves, but in an entirely different way. Like the African lungfish, Enforsteri are aerial respirators. However, they are not obligate aerobes, and they are entirely aquatic organisms that cannot release their carbon dioxide through their skin, nor can they just hop out onto land. What makes the Australian lungfish special is their ability to switch back and forth between the branchial and pulmonary ventilation to best fit their environment. There was a study that specifically looked at the cardiovascular and respiratory responses from Australian lungfish as they were exposed to increasing levels of hypoxia. The results proved that these guys will not only switch to using their single lung for respiration, but they also change the biochemistry of their blood itself. Another study showed what changes actually occurred when Enforsteri was exposed to this chronic hypoxia. It was found that they will actually increase their hemoglobin's concentration, carrying capacity for oxygen, and taste for oxygen itself, all while breathing air. Whether they would be obligate or facultative air breathers, these fish are most definitely special cases in their aquatic realms. We have all heard of the next fish, the apex predator that can rule both saltwater and freshwater environments, Carcharhinus lucus, the bull shark. This urohaline osmoconformer has the ability to freely move between varying levels of salinity. At its core, osmoregulation depends on the relationship between the solute to solvent concentrations of the internal body fluids and the outside medium that surrounds the animal. Bull sharks, like other elasmobranchs, use these things called osmolytes in order to enhance their concentration of solutes to equal that of their environment. And because of this, the crossing between different bodies of water is possible. The main organs that are involved in their osmoregulation processes include the liver, the kidney, and the rectal gland, which, surprisingly, has nothing to do with the rectum except for its location. Sharks in general are able to maintain their hyperosmoregulatory strategies via trimethylamine oxide, or TMAO, sodium, and chloride. But bull sharks take this strategy a little more seriously than others due to their varying environments. In order to compensate for the large influx of water due to osmosis, bull sharks and other freshwater elasmobranchs have to increase the amount of urine produced as well as actively intake the sodium and chloride ions that are really lost. Now, the rectal gland in particular is responsible for filtering out these sodium and chloride ions from the organism, but its activity is significantly reduced in C. lucus, as evidenced by a reduction in activity of the ion pump NKA, or sodium potassium ATPase. In some, the rectal gland itself is smaller, and this is just one way that bull sharks have adapted to their freshwater environments. Another way they manage their adventurous lifestyles is by having their kidneys produce the excess amounts of urine, while also facilitating tubular reabsorption of the urea and sodium and chloride ions to reduce the urinary osmolyte loss. Unfortunately, there are still unknowns surrounding the mechanisms of ion transport within the gills of bull sharks, but there are studies going on out there currently. If you see these guys in the water, take a moment to appreciate their osmoregulatory powers while your fingers are pruning. Alas, we have reached the smallest of the boys in this video, Betta splendens, the betta fish. Growing up, most of us have had or seen these guys in small, seemingly unlivable aquariums. The reason being is these guys have a little organ called the labyrinth apparatus that allows them to actually live in poorly oxygenated, hypoxic environments. And yes, we are talking about respiration again. Yay! Anyways, the fighting fish are in the group Annabitoids, and all of them have these suprabranchial chambers that each house this air-breathing organ, which is a complex, bony structure lined with thin, highly vascularized epithelium, and this is located internally behind the eyes. The organs themselves are folded in a way that greatly increases the respiratory surface area, thus letting Annabitoids live in not so ideal places. Not only do these apparatuses allow B. splendens to extract oxygen from the air, but they also greatly influence their behavior. According to one study in 2017, the labyrinth organ and Betta splendens' ability to breathe air influences territorial displays, courtship, breeding, and even parental care. It is quite amazing that these little mazes filled with lamellae mean life or death for labyrinth fishes like B. splendens. Another interesting tidbit about these guys and their coolly named organs is the fact that the labyrinth apparatus actually grows over time and the fish aren't born with a functional one. One of the most extreme versions of the labyrinth apparatus is in the climbing perch, and this actually allows them to climb trees. Of course, our fighting friends can't climb trees or crawl between bodies of water, but their ability to survive a 5-year-old kid's care is quite impressive. As we continue to see the natural world change around us, it is important to pay attention to the critters who have evolved to beat the times. With oceanic acidification and warmer waters, many fish are experiencing a drop in water oxygen levels. The lungfish, the bull shark, and the betta fish have all found ways to expand their home ranges or adapt to their changing ones by looking above the surface for their solutions. Between the 3 different organisms spoken about throughout this video, they all have one thing in common: their fishy circumstances.